Oh, that's a good mug. Hi guys, it's Saturday. Welcome back to the den. So we are back in our kitchen. Yes, we are coming after Derek's gig. Oh, you better don't. It's actually oh, you didn't, right? Oh, you didn't.
I think so, yeah. Oh, you didn't.
Well, this is the rip-off series. Oh, you better don't.
Oh, you better don't.
So this week we are doing a take on traditional fry bread. So I'm First Nations, I'm Iroquois Mohawk Turtle Clan. My entire life I was told that I was Cayuga, and within the last few years found out we're actually Mohawk. So traditionally we have bannock, which is very similar to fry bread, only it's usually a little bit thicker and it's basically fried in a cast iron frying pan and then baked in the oven. Whereas this is literally fried. You either can fry it in a pan with oil, you can do it in a Dutch oven, or you can do it in a deep fryer. So whichever way you like. Now with this recipe, it's actually pretty versatile. Traditionally, it's just like a regular plain dough. And if you want, you could add stuff to it. Like if you want to make something a little bit more savory, you could add sage and cranberries. Or if you want something sweet, you could actually dice up some apples and some cinnamon and sugar and do like an apple cinnamon one. And it would kind of turn out like a fritter. And then you just make like a little glaze and put that on top, and oh, so good. You do the same thing with cinnamon too. Cinnamon raisin, something like that. So we are just going to do a regular plain fry bread because we made a vegetarian chili for dinner and we are excited about that. So we're gonna have that with our dinner. So before we get started though, now this isn't sponsored, but I definitely feel like this is something I'm extremely happy, like a purchase that we made recently that I'm extremely happy with, that I feel like I need to share. Within the last couple months, we noticed that Susie is actually, she's lost a lot of weight. She's drinking a lot of water. She's going to pee a lot. She's not eating as much.
She's now 15. She's older. She's not as energetic as she used to be. You know, all the things that you expect when animals start to get older. And I was starting to chalk it up to that. And then he started pointing out little health things that I wasn't noticing. So we decided we were going to do some research and figure out what we could do, like not necessarily holistically, but like without shelling out thousands of dollars for a vet visit.
Right. We came across this one on Amazon. It's from Pet Wellbeing. It is a kidney support and it's good for cats and dogs. Because of her weight, we give her 10 drops twice a day mixed in with her food, and she's notoriously picky.
Yes.
And oh my God, she eats this stuff up. Her appetite's improved. She isn't drinking near as much water as she used to. She's peeing less. She's eating a lot more. She's actually gained weight, and she's only been on it for like 4 or 5 days at this point.
The biggest thing for me is that as she started to get older, she used to just jump right up on the couch or right up on the bed or whatever. She started to second guess herself for a little while, like she wasn't sure if she was going to be able to do it or whatever. She's just been jumping like she used to 2 years ago or more. There's a little bit more of a spring in her step. Her appetite's improved. If your cat might be exhibiting signs of, you know, kidney disease or hyperthyroidism, it's at least worth a shot.
So definitely check that out, and if you want more information, leave a comment and we will let you know how you can order it. Again, this video is not sponsored.
Yeah, not
We're
sponsored.
Just incredibly impressed. All right, so we've got my recipe here. Now traditionally, fry bread is not made with milk because most natives are lactose intolerant. This recipe does have milk in it, so if you are lactose intolerant, you can go with a lactose-free milk, or you can just substitute the milk for water, which a lot of people do. Also, you can use soy milk,
I was just going to
milk,
ask if you could use
like
almond milk or soy milk or...
Yeah, it might change the flavor a little bit, so I would use like a plain, like not a sweetened almond milk. But,
yeah, because those tend to have a little bit of vanilla flavor in them.
But then again, it depends. If you're making a sweet one or savory or something like that, it may even lend to the flavor palette a little bit better. So we've weighed out 3 cups of flour. So we've got that here. And to that, we're going to add 1 tablespoon of baking powder. We have 1 teaspoon of salt, 1/8 of a teaspoon of baking soda. So there's baking powder and baking soda in this. Now with this, we are going to add Oh, yeah, that's a good mug. 3/4 of a cup of milk. Did not expect that to happen. All right, so then we need to add 3/4 of a cup of hot water and 3 tablespoons. Now this is your choice, either oil or butter. We're gonna use oil. Just gonna go ahead and mix all of that around. Ideally, I should have mixed my dry ingredients first before adding the wet ingredients. So as you can see, it's all starting to come together and do a nice loose dough. And then if you want, you can start kind of tossing it around with your hands. Now you don't want to toss it around too much, because that will actually make the dough get really tough, and you want it to be a little bit more tender.
So would you say you're more or less folding it or kneading it?
Folding it together just to make sure it's all stuck together. Now you're gonna notice that it's gonna be a little bit tacky and it's gonna stick to your hands. That's okay. That's how it's supposed to be. Now, if you don't like this, if sticky dough is like a weird textural thing for you, you can flour your hands. It would actually make it a lot easier, but where's the fun in that?
I'll say it again. We don't stick to those kind of norms around here.
That's right. What you're supposed to do is take this, separate it into roughly the size of a golf ball. Now this is actually, I do need a little bit extra flour for this. All right, so I just lightly floured my hands and just kind of toss that around so you can see it's not sticking to my hands anymore. It's nice and light. And then you just want to pinch it in the center and kind of keep twirling. And what that's going to do is almost make like a, not quite like a tortilla shell, but like the flour ones.
It would be a tortilla.
Is it a tortilla?
Yeah.
Okay. Now it depends on the size that you prefer. You can make these thicker, or you can make them a little bit thinner. I prefer to make them a little bit thinner.
Little bit of parchment paper.
If you want these to puff up a little bit more, you can actually set them to the side, leave them for half an hour to 45 minutes, and they will actually rise a little bit, and that'll make them a lot lighter and fluffier. It's not like a yeast dough though, so you don't have to let it rise. Once the heat does touch it, it will rise. Usually I make them a little bit bigger, but because we're having it with chili, I just want to make a bunch of little bite-sized ones.
Yeah. I think we forgot to mention earlier, but if you mix this together and for some reason it's not even getting to that tacky point, just add a little bit more flour to it. If you're anything like me and you're generally useless in the kitchen, it's good information to have.
If it's not tacky enough, then you add water. If it's too tacky, then you add flour. Whichever way, whether it needs to be a little bit more wet, a little bit drier. And then, so just keep making pieces like that.
So with fry bread, it kind of actually reminds me a little bit of naan.
Sort of.
But that would be more like a garlic. It would have more spices added to it and stuff.
Yeah, and with naan, it's one of those, I believe naan has a gluten in it, because when you eat naan, you pull it apart.
So this is an ancient recipe, basically, essentially.
Yeah, it's slightly modernized.
Well, yeah, because in ancient times, or hundreds of years ago even, you wouldn't have been measuring with, cups and teaspoons.
No, it's more just like eyeballing it, something you've been doing a long time, so you just know what to do. So what I'm gonna do is just drop it in the oil. Now our oil is set to currently 340. You can go anywhere between 325 and 350. I would recommend a little bit lower range though.
And that's Fahrenheit for those of you playing along at home.
Yeah, you don't want to go too low, otherwise the oil will just seep into the dough and it'll get oily and gross. You want it to be hot enough that it's going to crisp, but not so hot that it's going to scorch before it cooks all the way through.
So because you already kind of have a feel for how this deep fryer cooks, you know that that's about the right temperature for this one.
Right, exactly. Now what I'm doing is I'm just flipping them to make sure they're cooking evenly, and I'm pushing them down, like just submerging them under the oil, just so that way they get a nice even cook. So we just have a wire rack on a cookie sheet. If you don't have that, you can use newspaper, you can use paper towel, anything like that. And you'll see as it's cooking, it'll get like a nice golden color, and that's around the time that you want to take it out.
Now, is there any like cultural significance to this, or is it just that happens to be the food that was readily available type of deal?
So it would be made like using ground up grains and things like that, and it would be more like how traditionally you would make like dumplings to go with a stew or a soup. Just more like that.
Okay. So it's just your traditional fare.
Right, and if you go to a powwow, what you would get are called Indian tacos, and they're basically thin fry bread, just lightly cooked, so it almost
So it's
resembles
foldable?
naan bread. Yeah.
Yeah.
And then they put in the meat, the cheese, the spices, the
Yeah, I'm gonna
tomatoes.
need you to make those for me at some point.
Yeah.
Got a lot of money invested in this. I don't want to let it go to waste.
So if you get a little hole in one, that's okay. Now, I used to make these all the time as a kid. We wouldn't do them in the oil though, we would always pan fry them. A little bit of butter. And the first few times that I made them as a kid, I mixed up the baking soda and the baking powder, and they were bitter, they were gross. Yeah.
I've only
That's
ever
exactly
done that one time. Well, it wasn't mixing up one ingredient for another. It was mixing up what was supposed to be a teaspoon and what was supposed to be a tablespoon.
Ooh, yeah.
When I was making a chili, it was the most god-awful creation ever. One of the reasons that I'm not allowed in the kitchen anymore. There was so much cayenne and chili powder in it that it would just immediately, your face would start sweating. You're in the vicinity of that chili and your face was pouring sweat. Look at that.
Oh, yeah. So we're not going to make up the entire batch. We're just going to do a couple because we want to save some to go with dinner. Dinner's not going to be ready for a few more hours. And
Yeah,
we plan on sitting down and
going in this little crock pot right here.
Oh, yeah. So we plan on sitting down marathon watching
Umbrella Academy.
season 2. Oh,
Yeah.
yeah.
And then right before we started filming this, we watched the Muppet Show.
Yeah, the new Muppets. Muppets Now.
Yeah, it's on Disney Plus. There's only one episode uploaded so far, but the format of the show is quite a bit better than that show they tried to put on. Was that ABC?
Yeah, the Muppets.
Yeah.
It was literally just called the Muppets.
The first episode, Kermit actually did an interview with RuPaul, and you know all your familiar faces are there and everything.
So let's try this out. I've been sitting here snacking on it.
Yeah.
Mine.
Don't bogart the fry bread.
My fry bread. I made the fry bread. It's mine.
Fine.
Okay, I'll give me a kiss. You can have fry bread. Okay.
I thought for sure you were gonna be like, "Can you taste that? That's what the fry bread tastes like."
Boom, boom. Oh yeah. So I grabbed the butter in case you want to put a little bit of butter on it, but
I don't even think it really needs it.
so this actually the texture is perfect for Indian tacos.
Yeah, and honestly, this is way softer than I thought it was gonna be.
It's the thing. If you overwork the dough, it turns out tough. If you just lightly mix the dough, it's so soft and tender and
Yeah.
Now imagine this with chunks of apple, some cinnamon, a little bit of sugar, and then with a nice glaze over top, like homemade donuts.
Yeah, oh yeah. What was it you were saying we do, like cranberry sage? That would probably
Yeah,
be really
mix in
good.
some sage and some cranberry, make it a nice savory one.
Yeah, you know, we're just gonna sit here and mukbang in the meantime. With some plain fry bread.
So what do you think? Is this your first time ever having like fry bread?
Yeah, that's why I kept trying to get you to make it for me.
And what do you think?
It's good. And the outside is nice and flaky, not to the point where it's crunchy,
Right.
just flaky enough.
And you can see the difference between this and naan.
Yeah. Yeah, the outside crust of this is, I would say it's very similar to the flakiness of a biscuit with just a slight bit more crunch to it. What else was it that your brother was saying that you needed to make for me? It was like a soup of some kind?
Corn soup. Now traditionally corn soup. Corn soup is not what you think it is. It's not made with the regular corn that you get on the cob. Nothing like that. It's actually this white corn, similar to Mexican white corn, but you have to soak it for days and days in lye to soften it, and it swells up, and then you soak it in water, and like it's a whole process. You can buy the beans, or rather, you can buy the corn pre-soaked, which is normally what I'll do, and then you cook it down with like a smoked ham hock and some veggies and. I love corn soup. My brother hates it, only because normally you're supposed to cook it traditionally with lard. So there's like lard all throughout it and like hunks of fat, and the way that I cook it, I could sit there and just eat it for days and days. Not bad, eh?
No.
That's right. I said A.
Canadians tend to veer towards the A. That's how they named their country, you know. They just drew consonants out of a hat. C-A, N-A, D-A.
Go back to America. So, fry bread. You like the fry bread?
I do. It's really good. The texture is really nice. It's super...
I prefer it to bannock because bannock kind of cooks through that outside texture all the way through, which is tougher.
I was gonna say, I would imagine if you were doing that on the skillet, it would crisp up a lot more.
Yeah. So I prefer fry bread. I love it, and because of how we did it, the right temperature, it didn't seep in. It just cooked the outside.
It wasn't at all oily in taste. Like, even though we put oil in it and we fried it in oil, it was not at all oily in taste. It was nice and moist. It had a fluffy texture on the inside, just crisp enough on the outside. It was really good.
Yeah. So we will have to try and make this recipe again. Maybe make some variations. Maybe do a sweet one. Maybe do a savory one. And if we do this one again, just like this,
we'll have to do.
Yeah, I know. So if we do another one just like this, a traditional one, then non-traditional, traditional, non-traditional. But if we make this specific recipe again, I think we will try Indian tacos and see what you think of that. Love you.
Love you too.
All right, so the video that we were working on for next week, we did mention last week, we got some new finish, and we ordered a bunch of polishing rags and a bunch of other stuff, and so we are going to be trying to fix up Ken's car, redo it, do a nice...
Yeah, just make it look a little bit nicer. I don't expect that car is going to last a whole lot longer.
No, but like a nice full-scale cleaning on the inside. We're going to try the new finish on the outside, see how it does for the paint job, and the pièce de résistance.
I bought myself a little badge to put on the trunk, so when we're done, it's going to be a Toyota Corolla Shitbox Edition.
So we're going to be filming that within the next couple days.
Yes.
And yeah. All right, so that's going to do it for us this week, guys. Don't forget to like, share, and subscribe. If you guys have any traditional recipes that you have been making your whole life, or any traditional recipes that have been passed down from your grandparents, any relatives, anything like that, let us know in the comments below. We'd love to hear from you. So thanks again for watching, and we'll see you next week. Bye.